A record 2.8 million people are signed off work because of long-term sickness. That's up by 700,000 in the last 3 years. More and more are drifting away from the world of work, with the number of people who are economically inactive at the highest level since 2008 and since the 2008 financial crash. Has it become too easy then to sign off on long-term sick leave, or are these numbers just reflective of the level of illness in society? Ayesha, what do you think?
I think the sort of question is, I probably push back on the question. I don't think the question is it too easy to stay off work? I think the question is, why is it that so many people are off sick in Britain at the moment? And I think that is a massive problem. I think it's a problem for those individuals, because being long-term sick is really bad for you. It's really bad for your mental health. It's really bad for your confidence. It's really bad for your lifestyle and, of course, your own personal finances. It's really bad for the economy as well, because there are huge gaps in terms of our skills at the moment. And if you look into the figures, it feels like where these numbers are concentrated are younger people and then older people as well. So I think we've got to dig into why this is happening. I think doctors don't just willy-nilly sign people off. They're coming to see the doctor because they feel that they are sick, and many of them are. The bigger question is, what is going on here? Because there is something going very, very wrong. I think it's a combination of the pandemic. I think there's a combination of, there's a lot of mental health issues at the moment that I think we need to dig into. I think there's a lot of physical health problems. We're getting more obese as a nation.
Well, the big problems are mental health, chronic pain and mental health.
Yeah, and often that chronic pain is linked to lifestyle and being very unhealthy as well. Diabetes is a really rising thing in this country. And then I think at the older end of the population, there's a lot of people who post-pandemic just thought, I can't, I feel older and I'm thinking about my life. A lot of these older people as well, and I know this from my own experiences, particularly speaking to women, they're often giving up work to do caring responsibilities because adult social care is so difficult in this country. It's actually easier for them to kind of take time off to care for their elderly mum or dad, because it's really hard to juggle a job and do that at the same time. So I think there is a problem, but we've got to dig into it.
Well, we just spoke there about economically inactive, and I know there's a lot of criticism around that bracket, because a lot of the people that will fall into that bracket are full-time carers and they get very upset, probably rightfully so. So perhaps we're looking at this in the wrong way. Perhaps we're all just recovering from a pandemic and a cost of living crisis.
I do take on board many things that you said, and those things do need to be looked at and taken into consideration. But let's discuss the elephant in the room. This is my generation, 25 to 34. And that's where the increase is happening. And I just think we're becoming less resilient. We're becoming more obsessed with the tiny things which can be created into mountains from molehills. And we just don't have that ability and the tenacity to say, do you know what, I've got a sniffle, I'm going to crack on. If you look at the workplace, obviously not every sector, but if you look at the workplace now, it's the best time to work. I go into contracts and offices and I have to have about 3 health and safety classes to make sure my seat is adjusted okay. I'm told where the meditation room is. I'm told there's a counsellor on site that comes twice a day. We have fresh fruit in the morning. There's so many things. Even now we're seeing, was it April the 6th, where we can actually from day one demand flexibility. Yes. They didn't have this in the 60s and the 70s. You'd go into the office, there would be, loads of paperwork to have to deal with, everyone smoking.
Yeah, not many women in the workplace either. I mean, there was lots of problems in the workplace.
Well, in the 80s, there were lots of women in the workplace. And my thing is this, yes, we need to consider mental health, but we're seeing an increase of people off for depression. And there are countless studies to say what helps depression is to actually get into a routine, get up in the morning, go to work. And like I said before, this is 25 to 34-year-olds. And if we look at why the Conservatives were voted in, a lot of it was to do with migration. Now, I'm saying we need migrants because we are becoming either lazy or less resilient. So migrants are happy to come and take these jobs.
Interesting. Let's go to calls. Kerry from Manchester, what's your thoughts? Is it too easy to be signed off of work?
No, it's too difficult.
Okay, tell me your story.
I am on long-term, illness. I'm a cripple, right? I'm profoundly disabled.
Okay.
Physically.
So talk me through that. So you're in a wheelchair. Do you get lots of help to the house?
In order to get, like, you know, PIP, you get called in. You have to jump through hoops. You know, it's quite an unpleasant experience. It's an unpleasant interrogation.
From who?
They give you the rate they decide. And if somebody
Kerry,
well,
just quickly, we're talking about the Department for Work and Pensions. We're talking about the government. We're not talking about doctors here.
Well, the doctors are the government nowadays, and things like the DSS, the other people you go to see, you know, get your PIP, are the government. And it's all about, we don't want to give you this.
Okay.
And we'll make it really difficult, and we'll make you stigmatised and victimised.
So what is your long-term sickness then? What are you off with specifically?
Well, my neck was broken in 2 places a few years ago. It's never gotten better. That's put my legs out. I've got brain damage. You know, I'm a shadow of my former self. I had to quit university. I was an academic, but...
How long did it take you from when that incident happened, to getting sick leave and presumably benefits that were necessary?
For about 15 years.
15
I didn't even have a doctor. I didn't even have a doctor for a period of time.
That doesn't sound like it's that easy to get.
You know?
Well, I think this is a really important point. It's very, very easy to get a cheap headline by stigmatising people who are too ill to work. Now, of course, there'll be some people, and I do take your point about resilience with people, but a lot of these people are not just doing it for the fun of it. We are living in a cost of living crisis. It is not easy to live the high life on benefits. It is really, really difficult to get the benefits you need. And I think what would be better would be for the government to really look into, and certain sections of the media as well, to look into what are the root causes, how can people get help to go? Because a lot of people who are off long-term sick, they do want to come back to work, but they couldn't come back and do a full-time, 5-day-a-week job.
So we need to be a bit more flexible.
Exactly.
So actually the flexible working might work. I just want to get one quick response from Anne from Plymouth. Just your quick view on this. We've run out of time.
Oh, hi. I just wanted to make the point that we've seen this huge increase in the number of people who are experiencing long-term sickness. There's 500,000 more people, working age people who can't work. And I myself had to stop working in 2021. I had my COVID infection that left me with long COVID. And
I'm going to have to wrap up here, but that is another thing that we haven't brought up, is actually long COVID probably adds to these numbers as well, probably the mental health affected by the lockdowns and things. And thank you very much for your call. Now, if you're struggling and you need help, please do call the Samaritans at 116 123. That's 116 123. Call the Samaritans, but do speak to somebody. Thank you for all your calls on this. We are going to have to move on now.